Building a closed captioning system with the FLV playback component. FLVs can contain certain types of data that are marked to time, and that feature could be used to implement, as one of many examples, a closed captioning system. But Flash actually natively supports closed captioning without having to rely on cue points or other video metadata. And the FLV playback component makes it incredibly easy to create a closed captioning system with your video player for the purposes of accessibility, for example, making the soundtrack of your video accessible to the hearing impaired, and internationalization, for example, making your video content accessible to customers in many different countries. Flash implements what's known as the Timed Text Tags XML standard, and you can see more about Adobe's particular implementation at this URL. You'll note, if you check that URL, that it is actually not a complete implementation of the Timed Text Tag standard, but it is a good one, a good solid one that gives us a lot of functionality. This is a sample closed captioning file that Flash would understand, and it is the one that's included in your media folder in the XML folder. The core are these P nodes, and the P node defines a caption. And a caption has a beginning, which is a time code. Each caption has a begin, which is the beginning time code at which this caption appears, and either a dir, which is the length that this caption should display, or end, the time at which this caption should disappear. And if neither dir nor end is specified, then the current caption is replaced by the next one. Flash CS3 gives us a really easy-to-use, dedicated component to exploit closed captioning along with an FLV playback component. And that's called the FLV playback captioning component. What you would do is add an FLV playback captioning component to the stage. It can actually be anywhere. Though you will see this component in the FLA, it will not be visible in your compiled SWF. It is just a code component. In the parameters for this component, you will point the source to an XML file that contains the cue point information. You will also point the FLV playback name to the instance name of the FLV playback component. And optionally, if you wish to output the captions in a custom text field, you can specify a caption target name with the instance name of the text field that should display the captions. But by default, they will be displayed inside of the FLV playback component. You will want to make sure that the skin you use with your FLV playback component includes a caption toggle button. That is the option for users to turn on and off the closed captioning. If you don't have a skin with a closed captioning button included in it, you can add the caption button component separately. The specification for closed captioning also includes accommodations for styling. That is, you can style the default text display of the caption in the FLV playback component using styling in the XML file itself, which we're not using in this example. You can also implement multiple languages in the same XML file. Again, more information on that can be found at this URL. And if you do want to, you have the option of burning your captions into your FLV instead of using the separate XML file with Barak's Captionate, which is a Windows-only tool, but incredibly useful when you need it. You can find out more about Captionate at this URL. To get started, I'm going to ask you to create a new ActionScript 3 FLA. File New. Select Flash File ActionScript 3. Click OK. And now we will save it as File, Save As, and in the FLV Playback Closed Captioning folder, we'll call this FLV Playback Closed Captioning.fla. Next, we will add an instance of the FLV playback component to our stage. I'll open the Components panel, And under the video components, I'm going to select and drag on the FLV playback component. Now you'll note by default, the selected skin does not contain a closed caption toggle button. So under the parameters for this component, I'm going to select skin to choose a different one. And any of them with the word caption in the name will have a caption toggle. And I'll click OK. And now I'll apply an instance name to this component of FLV playback. Now I will insert a new layer by clicking on the Insert Layer icon. Double-click this to name this Actions. Then I'll open my Actions panel. You want to make sure that the Actions layer is selected, so you're applying the code on the Actions layer. And we want to talk to our FLV playback component on the stage, and we want to tell it what video to play. And the captions file that I have, the one that was actually easiest for me to generate because I knew it was going to be somewhere on the internet, is the Kennedy speech about going to the moon. So we'll load the Kennedy video. // capital media / FLV / Kennedy.FLV. Close quote, close paren, semicolon. Now we can save this and test, and it should play Kennedy.
But if I were to say, my fellow citizens,
but that's not very impressive on its own yet. So we'll close that out, and we can actually hide the Actions panel completely now because we're not going to need it the rest of the time. That was the only line of code that we're going to write. Next, we have to add an FLV playback captioning component instance to our stage. So I will open the Components panel once more and drag an instance of FLV playback captioning. And to show you that it doesn't matter where it belongs, I'm placing it off stage in the work area. It doesn't matter what the instance name of this is. So what we do need to do is point this to the right XML file. So with the FLV playback captioning component instance selected, you'll want to edit on the parameters panel. Source will be // capital media / XML / Kennedy capital C captions .xml. Now you'll note that for FLV playback name, I told you you had to provide the instance name of the FLV playback component, but for now I'm going to leave this set to auto. And you'll see that these components are actually smart enough to see, oh, there's only one FLV playback component on the stage. That must be the one that I should be associated with. So now I will test this movie.
but if I were to say, my fellow citizens, that we shall send to the moon 240,000 miles away.
Pretty neat. So we built a closed captioning system with a single line of code in about 2 minutes of actual work. And so that's really, I think, an impressive feature of video and Flash, particularly as people search for ways to make video more accessible and the content inside of video more accessible, not only to other human beings, but even to automated processes like search engines. Your code should now match what we have in FLV playback closed captioning _finish.fla. I'm going to close out test movie, save my FLA, and that concludes this lesson.